Marketing Group's been around for since 2012. And we work with mid-market companies helping CEOs and their teams move from random acts of marketing to an actual roadmap and a plan. And we also run the Marketing Strategy Lab for small business. So I wanted to share with you 3 or 4 things that I have observed from my perch that are common inclinations and mistakes and knee-jerk reactions that most companies will make at one point or another. And particularly this first one really has so much to do with smaller companies. The first thing a company might want to do when they're thinking about, I need more leads, is to drop their money on paid channels. It makes sense. You get what you pay for. I'm going to pay for reach. I'm going to pay Google or an online publication to reach people, and that should work. And it's the biggest mistake I see because number one, it costs a lot of money. And number two, sometimes we drop down our money before the foundation is really built, before we have stuff on our website that engages them, before we have an email funnel that can drive people through to get to know us more. So paid first, I would always take a pause and sort of think about that and think about some of the other things we can do first, which we'll talk about in a bit. The other thing, number 2, is that, and I certainly am a victim of this, we want to do everything. We want to reach everybody across the funnel. We want to generate awareness and leads. We want to be local and national. And this results in basically inefficiency, right? It results in not doing any one thing right. And the other thing is that companies rush out to hire outside resources. I know a million fabulous marketing services companies, great SEO guys, great PPC teams, great branding, creative teams, friends of mine like Constantino's. And generally, the first thing that happens is there's an expectation that these smart and dedicated people that you hire will actually understand what your strategy should be. So it's always a good idea, particularly for a small company with limited resources, to try to get this roadmap in place first. So let me move on. So here's what I would say as a rule, in my experience. If you are a company that spends less than 3% of your top line revenue on marketing, which is many of us, then focus is the order of the day. You cannot do everything. So we ask ourselves the question, how do I avoid randomness? How do I avoid random acts of marketing? The first step is to not do everything for everybody. So let me, I'm going to share my screen and just, I'm going to talk to you about 3 concepts that most of you already know about, but the idea here is, how can we focus? So let's do this. Okay. Let's see if it'll work. There we go. So the first concept is the funnel. Everybody knows about the funnel, right? You've got top of the funnel, you've got middle of the funnel, and you've got bottom of the funnel. What do we know about the funnel? The funnel is big at the top. We get lots of people in. They're interested in information. People in the middle of the funnel probably know they need your services, right? People at the top of the funnel are saying, gee, I'm interested in that. I might need that. I've heard about that in the ether among my colleagues. Let me learn more. But at the middle of the funnel, they may see, I need something like this. I need something in marketing. I live in the middle of the funnel at Whitespace. The people I reach, they know they need marketing. They're not just sure, they're just not sure what they actually need and how much they should spend. So these people I call, they're shopping. They're shopping for information. They're looking for more maybe pricing, but pretty much like, who are the personalities, who are the players? And of course, the bottom of the funnel is where they're buying, right? So here's the question. If you are marketing for your company, have you decided where you're going to spend your time, energy, and money? And this all depends on your business, your business needs. Now, if we all need leads, does that mean we all want to be at the top of the funnel? Maybe, but there may be conditions in your business that tell you, gee, I have a really big email database. I'm not going to spend time reaching 1 million people who don't know me. I'm going to focus on the middle. So my focus theme is when you're thinking about where you want to be in the funnel, in the trajectory of people getting to know who you are, it's a good idea to figure out where in the funnel you're going to spend your time and energy. Now, this has a lot to do with the buyer journey. I know you're all familiar with the buyer journey. Millions of strategists talk about the buyer journey, right? It starts with awareness, then we go to engagement, then there's some kind of conversion, then there's some kind of advocacy or retention among the people who are your existing customers. So when we look at this trajectory, you have to ask yourself, where do I want to focus on the buyer journey? So if you're really, let's say you have a 5,000 person email list, maybe your time and energy is worth being spent at the middle of the funnel, and therefore your marketing effort and your marketing resources, let's not worry about awareness right now. Let's take advantage of the people we already know and sit in the middle of the funnel to engage them or convert them. And then the last piece I would say is, these are all like common marketing tactics that I'm sure you can read about anywhere, but there's the concept of owned media. They call it media, but it's owned stuff, earned, right, and paid. So the owned stuff is the stuff you already own, like your website and any content you have, any videos, any materials, maybe even a conference that you sponsor every year, that's something you own. And earned is the earned benefit you get from having those things out in the world that people can attach themselves to. So for example, if you have a 3,000 person LinkedIn following, that is earned, right? If you have people who show up Kettle Space, this is an earned group. We're in an earned part of the funnel, and then you have paid. And the observation I made at the beginning is that people start here, they start with paid, and they send people to a website or to some asset, but actually, if they don't have all the right things in place, they send them here, and we have to ask ourselves, do I have the stuff in my owned channel? So my advice always is to really look at your owned media, look at your website, make sure all of the things that you own are in place. When you start sending people to a website or sending people somewhere where it's like inviting people for dinner and like not having any food. I mean, that's pretty much what it looks like. So even though it takes time to build out the assets and build out content, that's generally where I really suggest people start. So there's a component here that maybe tracks through all of these, right? The funnel is about people. The buyer journey is about people. And this is about you. So let's just talk a little bit about how you can help refine and define a target audience. Now, this sounds like marketing 101, but I will tell you that I find myself in situations all the time where the client says, so who is your target audience? Well, it's enterprise and startups. It's people who have considered my offering and people who have not. It's people who know me and people who don't. So this is just a little tool from the strategy lab that we use, and I'm just going to sort of run you through it. We really ask people to acknowledge the fact that they have more than one target audience, right? Aisha, your target audience might be women in business, but you don't know there might be another target audience that you can also reach. Gift givers, for example, deciding on acknowledging that you have more than one target audience, but evaluating the revenue benefit to your company of your target audience possibilities will help you say, I only have this much money, I'm going to focus on one, which one should it be? So this is something I'll offer at the end that you guys can just, have, obviously, how much revenue am I going to get? Each member of the marketing strategy lab delivers a piece of revenue to me. How many of those do I need to sort of achieve my goals? And is this a lot of people or a small number of people? It's okay if it's a small number of people. That might be actually the best place to start. What's the purchase cycle? My favorite example is a company I worked with recently. They had a $5,000 offer that was a one-off. It was a project. So somebody could buy their services for $5,000. They could probably get a lot of them, but then it's over. Their second target audience was a $50,000 nut. When these people get hired for that kind of larger customer, it's a $50,000 revenue stream. But guess what was different about each? They could onboard a $5,000 customer in 6 weeks, and they could onboard a $50,000 customer in 12 to 18 months after they ran through procurement and all the different decision points. So long is not bad, right? If your company is in a revenue situation where we're having a robust year and I'm going to plan for the future, I want to be known among this larger audience. I'm going to lay the groundwork for reaching them and accept the fact that the purchase cycle is going to be long, and that's okay with me. If my business needs are, holy crap, 2020 was bad, I actually need to re-engage, re-energize my revenue stream just so I can keep my staff, so I can pay my rent, whatever it is, then you might opt for, a customer that has a lower revenue delivery, but actually a shorter purchase cycle. That's why that's important. Their interest in your category is, it is harder to get someone to realize they need marketing, in my case, than it is to talk to somebody who knows they need marketing. They're just not sure what they need. And I've been in a situation in the 9 years in white space where I actually convinced clients that they needed marketing, and it didn't last because they weren't already bought into the proposition. So their interest in your category helps you decide, are they buying now? Are they researching options? You can see this is the funnel, right? Do they have a general interest, but they're not really in the market yet? Or is it something for the future? And I think the long-term and short-term value have to do with, is that $5,000 customer who's a short-term customer, are they the right kind of customer who might be right for upsell? Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not, right? Somebody who comes to the marketing strategy lab at a small price point and goes through the program with me may never be, a $200,000 fractional CMO assignment for me, right? That's not my expectation. Their value is, to me, is short-term. In some cases, there may be particular customers of yours where, gee, I'm going to start here, and then I'm going to be able to upsell or cross-sell them to other pieces. And then, of course, the buyer journey, as we discussed, where do they sit on this time frame and on this journey, and what's my patience level, right? So the idea here is that at the end of the day, you look at your 3 target audiences, they're all legit, and you say, what are my business objectives and how am I going to reach them? And this is just, what's this? Oh, that's just a picture of the buyer journey. So then when you go to owned, earned, and paid, and you think about, okay, I've decided on a target audience, do I have the materials to reach them? Before I drop my money on paid ads or, even pay $3,000 to sponsor a conference, do I have the stuff to give them, super important. Let me just move my little stuff around here. I keep admitting people. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll admit people.
So when let's say you've decided I'm going to focus on top of the funnel because I'm a new business. I need lots of people in. The expectation that they're going to buy right away, we need to sort of shift that a little bit. There is a nurture process. And I thought I would actually show you guys just a little, let me just get my stuff out of the way here. Let me just show you this. Can you see my screen still? So,
Yep.
Let's say you're interested in lead generation. Like, who isn't? I'm desperate for lead.
Ilene, we're still stuck on that screen where it says owned, earned, paid. Is that where you want it to be?
No.
We've been on that for a while. I think something is not.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, let's try again. Let's see if we can do this. That's weird. Hold on, guys. Give me a sec. So you weren't seeing a little. That's funny. All right, let me just, I think the present thing isn't really working.
Mm.
Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's making sense with what you were saying. I was wondering why we were on that doodle thing.
Thank you, Aisha. So what if I do that? Can you still see it? Hold on.
Now it's saying loading.
Yeah, can you see that?
It says lead generation, but nothing has populated yet.
Good. That's because I want to do my little animation.
Yeah.
Be super impressive,
Yeah,
So-
no, we like it that way.
So just to bring it to life a little bit, this is something we do. This
Of
is
course.
part of the
Yeah.
lab training. So if you have like a human being who's really interested in your business, or if you hope is interested in your business, you have to develop content. You have to develop an event or an ebook or a checklist or a video or YouTube channel, something on your website. That's the sticky candy that's going to get them to give you their name, right? And I've seen a lot of companies stop here. They stop here. One of my CMO clients, I had to go back to their 2020 lead list. It was big and it was sitting there. And in fact, by the time I started working with them, they had a PR company, they had paid Google stuff already in place, but this big bucket of leads that they had already captured through their content just was sitting there. So, if you can create a nurture path that, of course, gets them to continuously hear about you, and not just hear about you saying, buy my stuff, but actually send them back to a collection of events, a collection of different things they can learn from. That's why YouTube is so popular, right? Then this is actually a way to continuously offer people who are in the top of the funnel a way to move to the middle of the funnel. And this, I think, is true for paid search, digital, social, any of the pieces of content or owned media that you create. And I know this seems obvious, but I have to tell you, often it will stop here, right? My content is up just because I've built it, they will come. And if I push it out into the marketplace and capture a lead, I expect them to go to my website and call me. Learn more is the biggest misconception on every website. Learn more about what and why should I? Now, the other thing, this is my big revelation in 2020 when people hit a roadblock, and that was if you have some existing database of customers, of prospects rather, it doesn't have to be huge, but these are people who've already in some way expressed an interest. Maybe you've met them at Kettle Space or at a networking event. You'll decide as you segment your list who's really meaningful and who's not. My dad is the most frequent reader of my blog. I don't pitch him. But if you have this, whoopsie, hold on. Oh gosh. So the same applies here. You want to begin to talk to these people frequently, whether it's, using HubSpot, a HubSpot blog to distribute your blog every time it publishes, or whether you have a monthly newsletter, or whether you as the business owner, this is kind of what I do. I have my business send out, a monthly thing, but I often will go back into my lead list and reach out to people and tell them what I'm doing, or invite them to a roundtable, as Joseph knows. But the issue is, at the end of the day, all of those outreach pieces connect to some high value content that you're doing. This is hard because this is where the work is, right? If you can develop some of this stuff in-house, if you can create a checklist, if you can create a training, you can create an ebook, these are not, new ideas, but this is the way people are continuously receiving your value. And this is the sort of nurturing piece that I think is super important. And I would say that it's probably more important I'm going to stop sharing so I can go to one more little thing. It's super important to remember to nurture, and that is the most cost-effective part of your marketing. I would say anyone who's running a small business, start there, because it's not as overwhelming as trying to reach the immediate universe. I just want to have one little thing to show you, one little other thing. Let's see if I can do this the right way. Let's see. Hang on, guys. Sorry, we're taking a little station break here. It looks like, bear with me 1 second. It'll be worth your while, I think. Sorry, guys, this was up in my desktop and not here. Just bear with me a sec. I just want to give you, I want to show you something that you can use on your own. Just bear with me. I apologize. I'm on multiple computers. Talk among yourselves. Okay. Here we go. It's loading. My apologies. Let me go back to you. So one thing I would suggest you do, and I'll share this with you, is just think about these definitions of like, what is a marketing objective? You know, your marketing objective is, you have a business objective. I had a crappy year. I need to grow my revenue up to 2019 levels so that I can hire new people and launch my new product, right? That's a business objective. What is the role of marketing in doing that? Marketing can't do everything. So marketing is, I think, to be able to understand the best use of your marketing function and pick one or two things to do. So if you have an email database, your marketing objective is to nurture my existing database to lead them to this new product. And that defines your target audience in a very specific way. And then you can get into the strategies, the focus strategies that will actually only connect to that one marketing strategy. It's remarkable to me how I've seen a marketing objective might be expand to new markets, but the marketing tactics are all around, you know, reaching your existing database. They're inconsistent. So I'll offer this up to you folks to be able to think about how to line up a roadmap for yourself. So 1128, how'd I do, Mac? That's pretty good. I'd much rather
Excellent.
hear from you all, so throw some stuff at me. Not literally, of course. No one has a marketing challenge?
Who's got a marketing challenge?
Constantinos has a marketing challenge.
So
I guess
Eileen,
I'll ask. Go for it.
somebody else? Sorry. No.
No, go for it.
Okay, that was impressive, Eileen. I knew that you were very expert when it comes to marketing, and I found this very, very helpful. My question to you is this as a challenge, because as I'm trying to create my email list, all right, to build the email list, and that happens through organic reads, social media, some referrals, and eventually some things that I have planned out. The nurturing part, because I know in the email world, there is a lot of semantics, spamming, have like a clear unsubscribe button, not to have the people feel solicited, you know. If somebody just get an email because I have a list and somebody doesn't really react to it, how do I nurture something like that? How do you feel? Should I go like on a more personal level to identify how they feel about it? Let's say I have 50 mails right now that I'm sending. I see some movement from the 30, but the other 20, they just exist, but they're still on the email list. They haven't subscribed, you know, and I'm following all the clean guidelines to make sure I'm not soliciting my emails, you know, and like I told you, I have the unsubscribe button very clear, my address, everything by the rule of law. What do you think I should do with the emails that just exist on an email list and they don't show any reaction? If that's a question that you can.
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to say something super obvious, Constantinos. For time and energy and money and, you know, content development, I would focus on the 30. I know that sounds obvious, but let's spend some time there. But your question is a good one because I have many people who open and don't react. I have people who fill out a form and they go to this free strategy training I have. Sometimes I can see that they go back more than once and twice, God knows, but they've never booked time. My calendar is right there below them and they never book time. So this is a person I think is interested, not just sort of gratuitously visiting or opening an email. So I might separate those who've opened and viewed, those who've just opened and didn't really travel through. And then, you know, I actually observed, we just did this for a client of ours where this was crazy. They did a separate email campaign to a startup universe that they knew. Well, they got it through Zoom info, so they were kind of cold-ish. These people might have known about them, but most of them were pretty cold. They had a 70% open rate on the email and a 35% click-through rate to this video that we had for them. But nothing. When we ran the same campaign to the entire cold list of 9,000, no, warm list rather, of 9,000 people, we actually got people setting up conversations. They actually had more deals in first quarter 2021 than they had in 2020 or 2019. So you can see among a cold audience versus a warm audience. So we suggested for this cold audience that 70% open rate and like 35% click through, they're interested, but we're just going to we've created 11 emails, 11 that are not salesy at all. They're like, here's what we have to say about ad fraud. Here's what we have to say about brand integrity when you're doing this particular kind of thing. Here's something you might be interested in, human resources. These are all things in the scope of this company. And we just, and then of course there's a PS at the bottom, and we don't bother them like they'll get it once every 10 days. So now we've got, 11 or 12 weeks of just FYI for you. The decision is whether, and we're actually making this decision, should it come from the brand through an email tool like HubSpot or MailChimp, or should it be in a sales sequence where it's a template that the sales team can use? And they've actually split it up where the salesperson is going to send 3 of these templates personally, and then we're going to put them into an automated funnel. So the short answer is everybody should stay top of mind. There's nothing wrong with, I know newsletters sound like, welcome to 2009, but if you can create a newsletter that has some information, something about you, maybe a blog, an article that's interested, maybe a piece of content from Forbes that's like, here, you might be interested in this, and a call to action. If you create something like that for this disinterested group and they get it once a month, at least they're in your purview. Then if you have a CRM that's connected to your website, you can go back and see, have they visited? You could take that group and say, now I'm going to look at the low engagement group and sort of look at my tools and see, have they all just fallen off the wayside? At a certain point, what do we say? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. Right. So, I think focusing on those who've opened and responded and figuring out a way to casually and consistently, it's all about consistency. The other thing you could do, Konstantinos, is if you had like a salesperson, you could take the disinterested group and you could just connect with them on LinkedIn or on a social media channel, to just stay in each other's purview. Because by the way, all the stuff that you create in your own content doesn't just live in that place. It gives you this big, delicious recipe of stuff to distribute out into the world through your social channels, through your email channels. I mean, here's a tip. I write something on LinkedIn that's 1,100 characters. I give it to a writer. She makes a blog about it. Then I take it a few months later and I might turn it into an email. You'll recognize it if you're on my list. You can't play golf with everyone is my way to get people to pay attention to digital. And I've done it on LinkedIn. I've done it in video. I've done it in email. Does that answer? That was a long answer.
Great. This is great actually, because it validates your expertise and you just untied the knot that I have. I mean, having a strategy for the people who show interest somehow and the people who don't show interest, by nurturing them, not to move them aggressively into sales, just have them, since they show some appreciation of your content in some context, but nurture them. Like that's the nurture that I can understand. Like have them in the list and send them like content, and eventually you're gonna see from their reaction. So I like this because I can have a strategy like a funnel for the people who show interest and for the people who just they're not sure, they need more. So I really love this. That's great, Ilene. Thank you so much. That's great.
I'll just add that, it's like dating, right? It's like after a while, if it's going nowhere, you might have to move on. And that's also okay. That's why consistent marketing to bring people through the top of the funnel is always important. Karina, did you have a question?
So my question is about like the top of the funnel, like getting an email list. Are you against buying lists? Like, do you believe that it's better to do it organically, or is there ever like a benefit to like buying a list and starting from there?
So in my heart, I hate the whole buy a list thing. That's where my heart is. It's like, no, use inbound only, Meanwhile, as I work with larger companies, I've seen them go to Zoom
Zoom
info,
info, yeah.
right? And Crunchbase and bring in, now they happen to have somebody on their team who drills down that list a little bit. So by company size or whatever. And I think the biggest lesson is to manage your expectations. I mean, I've seen people rely on this list like, oh my gosh, I only got I had one of my lab participants got a 24% open rate on a cold, crappy list that somebody scraped off. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's remarkable. So I think managing your expectations is okay. I wonder, the question I might ask is, let's agree that we're going to use a purchased list. Then let's ask ourselves, what gives me the best chance of this crappy list, cold list, doing something? As soon as it's buy my stuff, or as a software company who's in the lab did at first, I hope they're not listening. They sent out this email campaign, but then they sent people to like a page on the website that wasn't specific. It was just a page that had information on it. It wasn't about action. Like, we don't want to make people work too hard. So for this email campaign that we've done recently with this larger client, we sent them to a video. I mean, a Zoom video with the VP of revenue on camera, with a little PowerPoint, but he had a great idea. It was like horror stories from my industry, from an industry veteran. It was like, great. People went there, they looked at it. That was a warm list. We used the same with the cold list, 70% open rate. So because we weren't saying, here's why we're the best at this, we could spend an hour on messaging, right? We could spend an hour on putting the customer first, making the customer doesn't care about you. The customer only cares about how you help them, as Don Miller says, survive and thrive, which is all true. So if you can write your content in that way that serves the reader, the moment we say, really, I'm running a strategy lab and here are all the great things about it, like, none of you will come. So I would say the worse the list, the more important that is.
Thank you. A second follow-up question. So what I do two types of work. I'm a fractional COO, so similar to what you do on the operations side, as well as do workflow consulting. And I am, I'm a believer that, you outsource what you're not good at. And that's where people bring me in. So I know that I've blogged in the past and I've done bits and pieces of this, but I hate it. I'll be honest, it's not a strength of mine. Mm-hmm. So I struggle with I'm willing to outsource this, but I struggle with do I get I've tried a biz dev person, I've tried a social media person. If I wanted to outsource the marketing strategy and have a partner to help me just not even get a bunch of leads, but good leads, what is the best way that I should approach that?
This is not a plant, right? Because this is what I do, but it is what I do. Well, here's a conceptual answer that I've started to put out some content around this, and I'm interested in what this group might think. I actually think it's, in some ways, the COO or the CEO or the C-suite's responsibility for at least having a general roadmap, because then you'll know who to hire first. I think it happens upside down. It's like, need leads, paid search, or let me just put content on LinkedIn, which I've learned painfully in the last 15 months is not the best lead gen tool. I've run paid LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn 3 or 4 times a week. I have a big following, lots of engagement. people know me, people meet me and say, oh yeah, I've seen your stuff on LinkedIn, but like, it's not a lead gen thing. So I think it's the CEO's, it's been my responsibility for my business. And actually the fractional CMO positions that I have are all because the CEO came to me. Now she's not going to do the work. He's not going to do the work, but maybe they bring their team to the lab or maybe they hire me, whatever. So having a roadmap, just being able to say, this is what we're going to do, I feel is the leader, it's a leadership task. And it doesn't mean you have to know what's your CPM. You don't have to know any of the marketing garbage, but you can say, I've decided that the objectives for this year are these things, and these look like the strategies. This strategy of, reaching new prospects in this new market segment, that's something I need to outsource, or that's going to involve these tactics or these actions. Who can do that? I mean, a simple example is my very first strategy lab client. From the day she got there, I knew that the first thing she had to do was create a website. So we spent the whole lab on messaging, even though the lab is not a messaging lab, because that's what she would need to do her first step. Now, if you have that laid out, then you can decide this year I'm going to do this, and next year I'm going to do that. Sorry, I think it's our job.
Thank you.
Of course. David, do we know each other? David Vogel, I feel like we know each other from somewhere. No, maybe not. Any other? Hi. Do we know each other?
Of course.
How do we know each other? From Centricity or?
I think it was through Jonathan, actually.
Oh, through Collaborex. Okay, right.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yes.
So much networking, so little time. What can I say? Nice to see you.
Agreed.
Any other questions you want to throw at me, guys, around marketing? Who's having an issue with spending? How much to spend on what?
Oh, let me turn my camera back on. I work for a college, this small online college, and we have been focusing for several years on just some internal operations things that needed to take place, and building out our programs. We've redid our website, which you just mentioned, and now we're trying to get back into spending on advertising, which we hadn't done for a few years, really, honestly, at all. And so we started with remarketing campaigns rather than keyword campaigns, because as you can imagine in higher education, like keywords, it's just very competitive. And so even with the remarketing campaigns, we ran them now for a few weeks, and it just, the spend on it so far was, for the returns they were getting, it just didn't seem like it would justify it. Like other schools, like our value proposition is that we're highly affordable. That's a significant component of our value proposition. So it's just like, how would we even think about, like, is there a solution for us, like, in that? Is that something we should like pursue, paid ads, or should we like pursue like a different strategy?
So a couple of questions back at you, Evan. When you say remarketing, is it a trustworthy path? In other words, you have a record of people who've come to the website and you're remarketing to them through Google?
Yeah, through Google and through Facebook. We had done it in the past, years ago. And I think, the reason that we had wanted to try that, at least at first, is because a lot of people who come to us, like, at least right now, I know obviously we also need to improve our SEO. It used to be pretty good, but it's declined. But a lot of people come to us actually like direct. They've heard about us already. This is like 40% of the people. And so they know something about us, but we just wanted to have something to kind of keep ourselves at the forefront of those people's minds. But yeah, maybe we didn't run the test long enough. Maybe we just need to see.
That was going to be my next question, because remarketing does take a while, but there's something else you said that, so here's the thing. When Google shows you that this level of activity was sourced in direct traffic, there's a way to actually drill down on that attribution. And I don't mean to suggest that you're not already doing this, but we recently found that a large percentage of our direct traffic, almost 50% of the traffic that was reported for a particular client as being sourced in direct was actually what they call the last interaction, because the first interaction was actually through social or organic or paid search, but the results were telling us it was direct. So that doesn't directly answer your question. That might just be another way to look at direct. Because if you're not doing any marketing, I would ask you, look at the sheer numbers, and do you really think that the awareness of your school is at that level that you're getting that much traffic through direct? It might be. It might
Right.
be.
Well, that's why it was shocking to me. I mean, we know that of the people who actually are students with us, 60% of them are coming through organizational partners. It's just kind of the nature of our business model.
Okay.
So it's a little different than like maybe your average school in that regard. It's a lot of adult learners and things. So, but yeah, that's something I hadn't looked at. So thanks for suggesting that. Can we see that through Search Console, or is that something else?
I have people who find that out for me.
Okay, that's fair.
I
I'll
think
look into it. I'll look into it more. I'm a technical person, so I think I can figure that out. Thanks for suggesting that.
So just one other thing though, I actually, now that you've given me some context, I would actually say if they're coming from referred sources, it's likely your direct number is real. I didn't realize that, if they're actually being sent by partners directly to your website, then that might actually be, I'd give it a short study, but chances are it is real. So I just think on remarketing too, are you remarketing through Google as well as Facebook? You said both, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we were starting out with here.
How long have you
Because
been?
like you said, we can't do everything.
I think it's a good idea. How long have you been doing it?
We just started out for a few weeks, but the spend level on Google was like manageable, but on Facebook, it seemed like it was being a lot more. I don't know if that's typical or not. It was just spending a lot faster, and I think the budget had been set like pretty similarly.
And your results tepid all across both channels?
Well, it said that there was like, yeah, just we were getting some people who are visiting the site again, but they weren't completing the inquiry form, which was the conversion goal that we wanted them to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like another nurture situation. And I think using those channels is a good way for that audience. I think it's a good thing to do, but I think it will yield fruit, but it will take time.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. That's helpful.
Sure. David?
I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
It seems easier to market when there's a known pain point that you're solving. So typically to get somebody to move, they're in one place and you're transforming them to to a place that they want to be. What happens if you're marketing something that people don't, kind of like think of when the iPhone first came out, right? When you're marketing something that people don't know they need, but once they understand that value, because there is no true pain point, obviously, to your point, I think this is where kind of the lead magnets that you kind of alluded to, kind of you have to educate them first before you can really move them into a sales conversation. Can you talk about those kind of situations and where you found success for your clients in those kind of situations where it's not like, oh, my basement flooded, I need a plumber, like very, very transactional, very clear. But when you have something that has a value proposition, but there's no pain point that they're really looking for, how do you get them to move into the funnel?
So I'm going to make a suggestion that you're free to disagree with, but I would argue that if you've created a product that you think is really beneficial to a target audience, there absolutely is a pain point. It may not be the pain point. For example, and I've struggled with how to actually convey this in language, but the actual problem that companies have when it comes to marketing is that decisions are hard. it's actually a decision-making thing. And that's, you'll see it I sort of tease that out in some of my content. But if I told you, you just can't make any decisions, like, you're gonna be like, Eileen, that's not true. I'm a smart person. So there is something, so I try to connect the complication around decision-making to the pain of what these decisions will cost, because that everybody admits in marketing. It's a waste, I have to spend money on it. So, I mean, you want to throw out what the product is? We could wrestle with it a little bit, or, I
Sure,
mean,
I'm happy to share it. It's actually a passion project of mine. And I developed a product that allows families to create a legacy video without ever having to hire a professional in-person video crew. And so, but
You're kidding? That's great.
I've been, and I'm a marketer, and so it's been a challenge for me because the people who understand the value of having recorded video of your mother, of your father, of your grandmother, of your grandfather, are all the people who've lost that individual. They're like, oh God, David, I would love if I had video of my mother, but she passed away 5 years ago. I don't have a time machine. I can't go back. So the people who understand the value and have the pain point are the people I can't serve. The people who, oh, great idea. I'll get to it one day, because there's no urgency because, oh, my mom's healthy. My dad's healthy. My grandparents are healthy. I'll do it when, but when you get to that point, when, they're in hospice, there's nothing that can be done. So I didn't really want to get too deep into it, but it's been a real puzzle to solve to get people to take the next step.
So I want to slice this in two ways. One way on the pain point way and one way on the marketing way. Now, on the pain point way, what I would say to you is we are all people in my age cohort with aging parents. We are all like, if I had only, right? If I had only. So the pain point is, something around don't wait till it's too late, do this. But if when I look at this as a business and we're talking about, let me rev up the machine, it might actually not have to do with the pain point of the core pain point as I just described it. It might be opportunistic around the calendar. So last minute Mother's Day gift.
No, exactly. No,
so you might, so
a birthday present, what do you get the parent that has everything? This is something they can't buy, blah, blah, blah. But that's very, I'm not going to say it's niche, but it's very kind of to your point. It's more
tactical. It's tactical.
Yeah.
Like to me, if you had so think about the funnel there. It's like, you messed up for Mother's Day, make up for it with this thing. And then they travel somewhere where then you begin to tell the story. Don't wait till it's too late, right? And if it's a more consistent marketing piece, you might have the pain point running through everything, and those other tactics are just promotional. But I think you have a big pain point, which is like, don't wait till it's too late.
That is the pain point. Yes. It's just people don't kind of attach themselves to it unless they really are in that space.
Yeah, I think it's an intersection of those things for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Aisha, anything for me? I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I do have a question. Thank you for picking on me. So my email list, I want to know if it's enough to work with what I have, or should I be working on getting new people, women into the funnel? Because I have a very tiny email list, maybe 500 or 600 women that are purchased from me in the past 2-3 years. And then there's another list of about 1,000 women that haven't purchased. So that's non-purchase list. Our open rate for the 600 women is like 40%, I would say, but they don't really buy. Maybe I've exhausted that list. They had enough of me and they don't necessarily buy that often. And the non-purchase list open rate is maybe 20-25%, and they're not doing much either. So either my content I'm sending out is not that great, or I need to bring new, fresh blood into the funnel. Like, what do you think?
So I'm not going to answer the question directly, because I think the bigger question is like, and we obviously wouldn't talk about this on this venue, but it's sort of your business the pandemic, the move, I happen to know, Aisha, so the move, all this disruption in the marketplace, there could be like a market thing that's happening. Like I canceled my Stitch Fix, my Stitch Fix subscription. Like I have enough clothes. They've all been sitting there for a year. This is my nicest shirt. I wear it so I can see you, But so there might be market stuff that's going on. Also, so the question is, what do you need for your business? Like, do you need new revenue now? I would ask you, you'll know more than me, who's more likely to plop revenue into your company? It might actually be a new customer, because those of us who have 2 or 3 outfits from you, at this point, I haven't used them up. I got that beautiful outfit. I wore it once, then there was a pandemic, so it might be that your opportunity is for this larger outreach. I wouldn't be shy. And I do think that the idea of nurturing over time, I feel like you need to get through this reopening. And I do think it's an opportunity. And I've seen some of the promotional things that you've done. You do spend a lot of time building community, which I think is great. I think when you look at your business, maybe it's time to say, okay, what do I actually need? So if what I need is 10 new customers before October, what's the best way to get that? And maybe it's a new list, or maybe it's an offer, or maybe it's a venue like this. I don't know what it would be, but I would focus on the thing you need, and then you'll know best. Is it Ilene who's on your email list who's bought 3 things from you, or is it somebody who's continuously open, the 24% open rate? They're interested in something. That's a juicy group. So
Okay. Focus on the open rate and see what they're.
the open rate. Yeah, I would say the open rate on your cold list or on your less warm list, not your customer. That seems like opportunistic at this moment in time. With a lot of reopening, here are 3 outfits we recommend for your first night out. I mean, you'll know better what to say. Your first business meeting, your first in-person conference, it's all going to happen by September. So anyway.
Thank you.
How'd I do, Mac?
Excellent. Yeah, we've got about 2 minutes left, so I think we'll wrap it up. That was awesome, Ilene. I love watching you grapple with specific challenges. So just a couple things. We'll be sharing this video on YouTube, and I'm going to send a follow-up email.
Yeah,
Ilene, you're gonna.
So Mike, I have the longest URL in human history. It's White Space Marketing Group, 2 G's. So if you go to whitespacemarketinggroup.com/kettlespace, we'll send you some of the goodies that you can work with on your own.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll put that in the email. And if anyone's interested, this Thursday at 9:30, we're having a breakfast with an investor event with Jimmy Chamberlain, the founder and drummer for Smashing Pumpkins, who also happens to be an early stage investor, started his own tech company with live events. So at breakfast with an investor, you get to kind of talk about your own business and ask these investors for advice. So that's at 9:30, and I'll throw the link in the chat. But that is everything from me. Ilene, if you have anything you want to.
No, I just appreciate everybody coming. I love this sort of Q&A stuff.
Yeah.
It's the most fun I have all week. So
Totally.
appreciate everybody's coming.
Thank you, everyone.
You did a great job, Ilene.
Yeah.
Great tidbits. Thank you. Helped me a
really
lot
did.
listening to you.
Thank you. See you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a
Take care.
take care, everybody.
Thanks, Kettle Space.
Oh yeah, thank you.